Cars 15. In Kingston Town, the cars were doing up a game of Find the Leaf. Cruz made it up, for she wanted to find a red one in all the autumn leaves. What she liked at the start of it is driving to the pile without having them everywhere. Lightning and Sally wanted to give it a try. Mate, on the other hand, was thinking of his time of when he saved Queen from when some criminals had put a bomb on him. It got him wanting to visit a new place that no car visited. I remember Big Ben I was put in. I'm thinking of visiting that little line in Wales, he thought. What is it called? Tallylin, and it's located in Tyrone. I don't think there'll be any racing there. It likes the quiet things like animals. What are you thinking, Mater? Asked Sarge. A railway, Sarge, said Mater. There's one in Tyrone, part of Wales. Oh, that's nice. None of us have been there for years. I'm to find something for Lightning and Sally. I reckon it's a quiet place to drive along. Mater was wanting to make a surprise so Tyrone would remind them of home. The old tow truck drove away to Margate, where adventures could begin. As he drove to the tip, he noticed a poster put on a tree. It said, "Purple car missing." A purple car? Said Mater. I don't remember seeing one like that. In all the years of cars built from the past and today, there wasn't a single road machine that was the same as he and his friends. The car had the eyes at the front, not on the window. Mater looked further down the poster. There were also words which the last ones saying, "Last seen in England, 2018. It sounds like a case coming to me. I might look out for him when going to Tyrone," said Mater. He continued on. When he arrived at the tip, he noticed a police car driving up to him. "What's that, Mr. Tow Truck? Did I hear you say you've gone into a case of finding a purple car missing?" he said. "You might have, officer. I read the poster with the last words saying he was last seen in England. Or might I remind you that there's been a kidnap in that country? Another officer there informed everyone if they saw him," said the officer. "He's by the name of Putt-Putt." "Oh, that's who he is," said Mater. "I'm careful to go to Wales. That's why some criminal cars put me in Big Ben." "I see some reason you're into detective work. I'll let you find him." The officer drove away, Mater drove into the tip. He found a workshop with the tunnel. "Terran, here I come," he said. After going through the tunnel mouth, he found himself in the town of London with Big Ben, England's clock tower. "This is it. I'll soon find a surprise for McQueen and Sally," thinks Mater. "It's going to be a long drive." Mater drove away from London town and began the long drive to Wales. Meters away from the town, he stopped beside a signpost in the crossroad. One of them said the way he came from, the second said to Scotland, and a third said to Wales. To his disappointment, it was longer than he thought, the number saying how many miles to get to the Welsh country. 20 miles to Wales? Oh, dang. I shall never reach it when it's night time. After looking at the signpost, he followed the road, just as the rain was starting to fall. It fell down hard on him as he had his headlight on, for the journey was going to be a wet and slippery drive. He hoped the road wouldn't be muddy. Mater thought about his surprise for his friends. He couldn't give them a wet drive. They wouldn't go home all dirty. "I cannot bear to give my friends a wet drive. I never wanted to make a race in Turin in the first place, which isn't happening because the Tallinn Railway may like less noise. Not even Jackson Storm can even torture it." "All it needs is a parade. That will please it." While driving, he saw a letterbox on the left side of the road. It was old, and its door was left open, with a few marks left inside it. "What's happened to that letterbox?" Mater asked himself. "What kind of stupidity can do this tear up?" Mater looked inside it to see how much damage the box had. With a surprise of shock, he saw an empty box of matches and an empty oil can left from someone who didn't want any letters to get through. "I'll take those with me. They're evidence that someone is trying to stay hidden," said Mater. "I might just hide them in my door. There isn't a police station along this route." Mater kept on driving with the first two clues. But no sooner did he drive away from the letterbox, he saw a bottle left on the road. It was corked up, and there was something fed inside it. "What's this?" said Mater. He took it off the ground and pulled off the cork. Inside was a piece of paper with a writing written on it. "To anyone who haven't seen me, please get me away from this man, Gruss MacDouch. He's taken me to his house of his family, which I don't know, and is wanting me scrapped for spoons from Pat-Pat. Pat-Pat's letter. Gross must have destroyed the letterbox. I might find his kidnapper's house, said Mater. It's in through the forest of Dean. I could go there. He didn't need time to find it. From where he was standing, he could just see the forest of Dean through the rain. Mater drove straight towards it. As soon as he reached it, the rain stopped. It was lucky for him that the road wouldn't be flooded, except he was still unfortunate of avoiding mud. The muddy route had the sign pointing him in the right direction. But there were words written underneath it saying, "No kind ones." No one escapes from McDelch's scrapyard till Christmas. It didn't really hurt Mater to leave. He couldn't let Pat-Pat have prison days. The tow truck saved Queen's life, so he had to get the purple car away from Gross. Wheel turn by wheel turn, he followed the road to find the McDelch's manor. This is it, the hidden route. I hope Pat-Pat's all right. Oh, dang. That was a long drive. However long is this road? The owner hasn't really put on a number to say how many miles. I might just find a place to rest. Brrr, I'm wet through and about to sneeze. At last, Mater came to the site of the house. He could see the scrapyard beside it with the car shed. That yard reminds me of mine back at home, said he. Can't say it doesn't look restful, but I need to save my engine some energy. The owner won't mind if I rest in it. He checked the house first, then wandered into the scrapyard. He looked here and there in the piles of parts, and looked in another shed. But there was no sign of Pat-Pat anywhere. Can't see him anywhere, Mater exclaimed. Oh well, I better rest here till morning. He rested in the shed, but he couldn't get to sleep. Mr. McDelch was his chief danger. His eyes looked up at the house. Its windows were intact, but had some cracks. That and others were not to him replaced for years. One chimney pot was missing. Suddenly, he saw a light lurking through the grove of trees. It was, for a minute, a speck, then began to grow bigger. Holding it was a man with a face of meanness. I didn't find that car, was what he muttered. He walked past the scrapyard, reached his house, and was about to open the door when his lantern picked up something. "Hello? There's another truck!" he exclaimed. He walked into the scrapyard, but as soon as he reached it, Mater was not in the shed. "Strange. I'm sure I saw a tow truck," he said. He went back to the house to get to his bed. Mater had been hiding behind the shed. He didn't want to sleep without planning to keep out of sight. He went back in the shed and slept. The next morning he was awake to look about the yard after waiting for Mr. McDowell to leave. "Time to look for that purple car again. I hope to find him this time," were my things. "He's gonna get nothing after doing another hunt." Once Mr. McDowell got his lantern, he walked away from his property. Mater saw his chance to look round the scrapyard. "Hello? Is anyone in McDowell's scrapyard?" he called out. "Shh! Not too loud. My hiding place will get found out," a voice replied. Mater looked at the edge of the scrapyard, wondering where it was coming from. It seemed to be coming from somewhere he didn't search. He went behind the shed again, like when he entered the property last night. Behind the back of the shed were 2 trees. Mater didn't search them when hiding from Mr. McDowell. He looked behind them, not sounding his engine, in case his car hunter would come back. Now there is just one possibility. Pat could be hiding in each trunk. I know. Perhaps if I just tap them. Hey, not too loud. Aha. Very interesting. After his discovery, Mater went back to the shed. He soon began to doze, but didn't when he saw the light of the lantern again lurking. "That was a worst search I've ever made," said Mr. McDowell, angrier than ever. "I'll have to find that tow truck if he shows up." He went in the house to bed. Mater thought he'd better check the trees again, just in case his urge would give him a bigger one. He found the second tree he tapped the second before. "Is that you in there, Pat? It's me, Mater, a friend of Lightning," he whispered out. The little purple car came out of the trunk of the second tree. Then he gazed at the tow truck for a minute till he could speak. "Hello, Mater. I'm glad you're not Mr. McDowell," said Pat. "Have you come to rescue me?" "I am," said Mater. "I've seen your missing poster saying you were last seen in England. Where do you live, by the way?" "I live in Cartown. It's next to another town called Fenleyville." "Do you think you can take me there?" Pat asked. "I can after my visit to Tallylands Railway in Turin," said Mater. "Perhaps we can go there together." "That's strange. I was heading there too, so we might have a look, you and me, if Mr. McDodge doesn't find out. Come in the shed. I think you've had enough of the draft. Oh, thanks. I need a dry rest than a wet one. Mater and Pat-Pat rested in the shed to rest their energy for the long drive. Mater whispered his thought idea before he closed his eyes. I must be awake before dawn. It will be our best chance. It was an hour until a cockerel crowed somewhere away from the wood and yard. Mater woke up when its crowing hit his ear. It was time to make the move. Come on, Pat-Pat. Time for us to be on our way. Oh, free drive time, is it, Mater? Great. I can't wait to stretch my wheels. Shh, not too loud. I hope we drive in peace. Come, the cockle's crowed. It might have woken up Mr. McDouch. Do you think we can inform the police about the criminal as we go? We might. He deserves to be poor, the little beggar. Come on. I don't call this a working yard. Let's make the drive. The tow truck and purple car snuck away from the McDouch property, driving back through the wood, following the road back to the main one. When they found the main road, they followed the route to find Wales. What else are you doing, Mater? Asked Pat-Pat. Well, I'm looking for a drive so as to surprise McQueen and Sally, Pat-Pat, said Mater. Visiting Tallylyn will bring them some memories they did together. Oh, that's nice, said Pat-Pat. It's like when Pep and I popped every balloon. Pat-Pat was thinking about giving Sally and McQueen something from where he lived far from Tasman Sodor when he noticed Mater was staring at something flashing far behind in the woods. He looked back too. A light was moving from the grove of trees. It was searching further out, trying to catch them. Best move, Pat-Pat. McDouch is hunting us. Come on. Right behind you. They went driving for over an hour away from the Forest of Dean as the sun was slowly rising, and went right along the hills without stopping. At last, Wales came to sight. They could see the station not far away. What long drives they achieved! A tour was rewarding and worth a jar of large cookies. Dizzy with running and almost overheated, Mater and Pat-Pat drove over to the town village. A policeman came walking upon them, doing his patrol of looking for trouble. Morning, you two. You're new to town, he said. What brings you here? Morning, Constable. I just rescued Pat-Pat from a manor of a McDouch family. One is the loner of it. and quite poor. I've been hiding in the trees till the time for me to escape would come, said Pat-Pat. His poor job is to scrap cars and turn them into house tools. That McDouch happens to be Scrap McDouch, and he's given it to himself. No one doesn't know his name ever since his parents and sister moved away to town. And the orphanage brought him, said the policeman. How could everyone in the world? He wants to force them back, but came across one of you and somehow forgot his family. Where's his family? Asked Mater. They moved to Scotland an hour ago, when you arrived. A unit is what they stayed in, the policeman explained the family whereabouts. They're all right for now, but we're not. Scrap's on his walk, hunting us down, and we can't visit Tallylin just now. So, can you stop him? Asked Pat-Pat. I'll inform backup while you visit the railway. Off you go now. Mater and Pat-Pat drove on through the village. Just as they arrived at the station, Mater remembered the surprise for McQueen and Sally. We'll need a camera to make a photo, Pat-Pat. They may one day visit it. I've got one, said Pat-Pat. I brought it from Cartown. Good idea. We might get it processed in the camera shop. But what about Scrap McDouch? We should see if he's arrested. He doesn't look arrested to me. From mountain far from the village, they saw Scrap, all puffed out. He sat down to get his energy back. Mater and Pat-Pat decided to take him down. They had enough of him chasing them. They sneaked out of the village, not sounding their engines. When they reached the criminal, Mater sneaked up to him, like he did with the tractors. Pat-Pat sneaked up too, with some rope, and just before Scrap could look up at either of them, a hook came on him swiftly and caught him by the scruff of the neck, and the rope wrapped him unawares. Got you, McDouch. That's for kidnapping Pat-Pat. It serves you right for being dangerous on your family. They took him to a nearby police station before visiting the train station again. That's him sorted. Now he can visit the train, said Pat-Pat. Plus, find what McQueen and Sally like to visit, said Mater. Then you can show me your hometown. That will be great. They got on the platform of the station just as Tallylin was getting his train ready. There were trucks for them to ride on, so went on them. Once settled, they set off out and away from the station yard. But there were more adventures for Mater after he finds a surprise and visits Cartown. I wonder if he would meet new friends.